this video, we're going to look at the more in-depth capabilities of your page builder in your funnel builder area, right? So this video assumes that you have a basic understanding of the building blocks of a page, which is covered in the basic demonstration. So this video, we're going to use this page I've created here, the advanced page builder demo, to go through how to actually put together various elements, columns, rows, and sections into something that looks a lot more presentable than just a few things just thrown together, right? So I've already created the page. I'm going to jump straight into this and go edit page. So as we go through this video, you'll see we're going to adjust various settings and various settings of the sections and the rows, and this will give you a better idea about how to really put things together. So I'm going to start out with this page, and actually, so I'm going to use a background on this. So I'm going to hit my settings area here, and I'm going to click on the background button here to set a background that will actually cover the whole page, not just a specific section. So now I can, if I wanted to, just choose a color like this. And I can choose a custom color by clicking this link down here, and then I can use this color swatch option here to choose exactly whatever color I want and whatever transparency I want. And I can hit add color and make it like that. Or what I can do is I can add an image. So that's what I'm going to do in this case. So this is one that I uploaded earlier. However, you can also use the upload button just here to upload a new image of your own. You also have the search capability like this. And this will actually give you access to the library that's linked up via Pixabay. So these are videos that basically are royalty free or free of copyrights that you can just use. And in fact, the one that I'm using is sitting here in the library. You can also use Unsplash, which is the same thing. This is actually where I got this one from, so we'll probably see it here again. So I can search on Unsplash, and again, I'll find those videos. Let's see, there it is. That's the same video I've got there. And then we have gradient backgrounds and texture patterns that you can select as well. So I'm going to go back, and in this case, I'm going to use the one that I uploaded so that you could do the same thing just by hitting this upload button. And I'm going to select that as my background. So there are a few options with this. You can have that image set as full center, 100% width, which is just the width of the screen. You can see that. Now that doesn't scale the image. No repeat basically means it's going to show in full size. You can barely even see what's happened here. It's now such a huge image that all we're seeing is like the very top left-hand corner of the image. And then you can set it to repeat. However, with this, as it's a large image, we won't see anything here. If I was using a small pattern, then that's where these repeat options would work. So I'm going to leave this on as full center here. Background image opacity you can change, so you can see these here, where you can make it slightly faded. Basically, this allows you to put text over the front and make that text more clear. However, in this video, I'm going to show you another option of how you can do that, which is actually just here with a background color. Sorry, which is in the sections themselves, we're going to add in what's called a color overlay, and I'll get to that in a minute. All right, so we're going to continue with the page here. And as you've guessed here, this is going to be a space theme page. So this has nothing to do with what you're actually building for your business, but we want to use this to focus on the capabilities of the page editor rather than get caught up in exactly what the page should say. That's not the topic of this video. Okay, so now we're going to start adding our, we're going to do a few other things. We're going to set our SEO metadata up here, and we're going to say free space adventure, and claim your free space ticket. Okay, and I would set my keywords. And I could set the author as my business. And I would set an image. I could upload an image as a social image URL as well. I'm not going to do that just here. Now, important to save your work as you go. So you'll see I've got the little circle up here. So I'm going to hit save. It's telling me I've got unsaved changes, so we can keep working from here. The next thing we're going to do is add a section to the page. So I'm going to hit this section button here, add a section, and I'm going to add a full width section just here like this. Now I have this green box here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with a 3-column row because I'm going to have a logo, I'm going to have a headline, and I'm going to have the address of my business. So I use add row and I put in 3 columns. Now I actually want these columns to be spaced a little bit differently than evenly. So you can see here where these purple dots are. This actually allows me to customize the width of each column. You can see I can just click and drag on this. So I can have a sort of closer to a square area over here and a shorter area over here as well. And now I have a much larger area for my headline. So working left to right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my logo of the business here by clicking add element, and I'm going to add an image. So similar to the background, when you go into the image, and I'm going to close my background settings here, and you can see now I've clicked on the image, I'm in the image settings. Again, if that's not showing, say I was somewhere else, I simply click on that and it will show me the settings in the left-hand menu. If you've compressed that, simply click on it again and it will bring back the settings. Okay, so there are generally 2 levels of any settings across the various elements, general settings and advanced settings. So here we have the title of the element, and this is how it will reflect in the element manager. So I'm going to say this is the icon image, right? Sorry, I'm going to call this the logo image. Okay, so now you can see in my manage of elements, this is logo image. So that's where you change what that is. And when you have lots and lots of different elements, this is not a bad idea to actually change these. However, it is completely optional. Right, the next thing we have is the spacing options. Okay, so this is basically the amount of padding between the element and the row that it's in. Okay, so you can see this is sitting in the row. It has some padding on the left. If I was to make this 0, you'll see how it sits, you can see how the image sits flush with the image block itself, right? So put this back, like by exaggeration, to like 40 on the left, and what it's doing is it's putting a big gap on between the left-hand extent of this image element block, if you like, between the ends. So I'm going to leave this as 10 all the way around. All right. Now, margin is different. You can see what this is doing. You can change the margin at the top and the bottom. This literally moves the element block up or down within the column, right? So you can see when I make this margin like 50, you can see that 50 margin is literally the gap in pixels, 50 pixels here, between the top of this image element and the top of that row. So I'm going to put this back to 0, okay? So it's just sitting flush in the middle. Now, you can also change the background color of the area. I'm not going to mess with that. The opacity of it here. The first thing I'm actually going to do to show you what this means is I'm going to actually add the image. So this has a placeholder. So to change the image, I click on the pick image icon here. Now again, I've got an icon set up here ready to go. You would actually upload yours by hitting the upload button. So I'm going to just select this image here. And you can see this is where I can now play with some various things about the image. So with the background of it, you can actually see I can change the background area of the image element, and you can see how that changes there. And I can put it back to transparent like that. You can also change the opacity of the image. So if I put that on heavy fade, you can see it basically fades out, right? So that's options that you have there. And I'm going to set that to none. And you can change the alignment of the image. When it's sitting in the middle like this and it's taking up the full piece, that's not going to change anything. Now you can also customize the size of the image if, for example, it's taking up a larger area than you want. So for example, I could say I don't want this to be any larger than a maximum of 50 pixels in width, and you can see what that does to the change, right? So it will scale this, so it doesn't mean that it'll squish it. It just means the maximum width will be 50 pixels, and it will scale the image down to fit within that. If you make it want something as much larger, say I set this to 5,000, it will simply sit within the confines of that box. All right, so I'm not going to mess with that. I'm going to leave it exactly as is. Okay, if you want to set a link to it, you can have it here, and you can actually you just set the link URL. So for example, another page, if someone clicks on that image, and the redirect action means that normally it'll open on the same page, so it'll load in the same browser tab. But new tab or window, it means that the existing page that they're visiting will stay there, and that'll open in a new tab. So that's what that means. I skipped over the alternate text settings. That is for your SEO purposes if you're labeling your images with your keywords or points that are relevant to your organic rankings on Google. So there you go. That's the logo image settings. We're not actually going to mess with too much of them there. In the advanced area of the logo settings, you can actually put round corners or a circle on your image. And you can see what that does there. Just to demonstrate this a bit better, I'm going to go back. I'm going to put a background color of white on this. And you can see if I go into advanced and I want this to be a circle, you can see it close. It's basically putting a circle frame on the image itself. And you can do the same thing with round corners. Round corners, you won't see anything with this because it's just rounding off a clear space at the end, at the edge of the image. Right, image border is basically you can do it like a white thumbnail or a dark thumbnail like that. And an image shadow is options on how much of a shadow you want to put around that thumbnail, right? And you can use these independently of each other like that. So you can still have a shadow or you can turn it off. And you can also put the images in black and white if you want with effects. Now, another area that you'll see on most element settings is visibility. So by default, everything will be visible on both desktop and mobile. However, you can set it to only display on one of them. So for example, now this is set to desktop only. And what this means is if I was on the mobile view, the logo won't be here. So if I put it back, now it's there on my mobile view as well. And vice versa, I can say I only want it to show on mobile by canceling out desktop. So now when I go to mobile, there it is, but back on desktop, it's not there. We're going to leave it on both for this demonstration. So, let's fix up the background of that image because that doesn't look so great. And we will change the background color to transparent. Okay, so now we're going to add the next element, which is going to be our headline just here. So I'm going to add an element and click on headline. Now there actually is some text here, but I can't see it. So instead of just changing the text color here, which I'll show you in a minute, we're going to show you how to change the typography across the whole page. So what this shows is that in the typography option in settings, I can set my text color to white, which means now by default, all my text will come in as white, and you can see that's already taken effect immediately. Okay, so there's my large call to action headline. And then I'm going to add a subheadline underneath it, and then I'm going to add another subheadline. Now my subheadline, I'm actually going to put one at the top. So I'm going to use this function here, the up arrow, to move this up here. And we're going to put our initial line, our initial first text thing that someone sees up here as a subheadline in smaller text. And this is another advanced feature I'm going to show you, is that in some page builders, you need a lot of custom coding to put dates in, specific dates. This one has it built in. So you can put in something like this, and you can use weekday, comma, today of month, and it will literally say, this is a special offer for, and it will say like Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, whatever day it is when the page loads. And today we'll put today's date, so it'll be like 5th, 6th, etc. of, and it will put the month in. And we'll see that in a minute when we preview the page. So that's really cool. So these are things you can put in here. It's just a double parenthesis around it that you can see that. So the next one is I'm going to put in my call to action headline, which I've got here. There we go. So get a free ticket to outer space. I'm going to put this in bold. So when I highlight the text, I can either use these icons here, or I can even use my keyboard shortcuts. So I could hit, if you're on a Mac, Command B, if you're on a PC, Control B, and actually make that bold and make it stand out a bit. All right, and then I'll adjust the next bit of my subheadline, which is going to be my conditions to the headline. Whoops. Okay, there we go. All right, so there's my text in the center. And I want this spaced out a little bit differently. Okay, so again, you'll see when I go in to edit the elements of this, there are some similarities between what we saw in images. So in this case, this text here, I want that spaced a little higher. So I'm going to find in my settings here, in the margin, I'm just going to push this down a bit, and I'm going to say put the margin to 15. I just slide that across. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing with the next one. Or I can actually just type it like that. All right, so there's my headline. Get a free ticket to outer space even if you don't have your own spacesuit and you've never left your lounge room. Okay, and I'm going to add in another bit of text here. Now, the other thing I could do is, instead of adding text from scratch, I might have formatted this to a certain way that I want. So for example, if I'd edited the text, so this, I'll show you this on the left, I can change the opacity, the text shadow. You can play with these different formatting options. The letter spacing itself, you can spread that out like that if you wanted to. In fact, we will leave that as is. You can add icons to the text. You can change the color options, and all these things will change specific to this text block, right? Rather than the whole page. So assuming now I've formatted this the way I want it, and I want this to be similar over here, I can copy this, and then I can use this drag option to drag it into this box here. Okay, and then I'm going to put my address in here by selecting everything and just pasting in my address here. Okay, now this one here is my address. I want this to be right aligned. So I go into my settings over here, and you can see the text align option, and I'm going to put it to the right align like that. Now I'm not actually happy with the text spacing on this one, so I am going to change it. So I come down until I find my text, my letter spacing just here, and I'm going to put that back to normal. And it still doesn't fit, so I'm going to drag this a little bit over until it all fits just like that. And I'll delete the space. So now I've got my icon, my main text, and my address up here. Now I notice that this address is sitting below this one. I want this to be lined up. So let's see, I'm going to bring this down a bit, this center text here. I'm going to change my spacing on that by changing the margin, and I'm going to drag this down. Okay, so now it's in line with my address just here. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is definitely save my work because we've done quite a bit from here. Now you might notice here that it's a little bit difficult to read this text. So I want this background to be a little bit darker. However, what you saw in the background settings was simply fading the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an overlay on this. So within the settings of my section, remembering the section is the master level, I'm going to change the background color. Now, if I made the background color black, red, or orange, you can see it completely goes over the top of the page background. However, I have an overlay option down here, which is slightly transparent. You can see basically what that's done is it's put like a semi-transparent gray, which has the effect of darkening the background. And so now my text has really popping out, is a lot easier to see. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another section. So I'm going to click on this and add another full width section, and I'm going to have the same effect on this section with that same color overlay, so that all looks the same. Now the new section, we're going to add a row. We're going to have a video on the left, and we're going to have some bullet points on the right. So this time I'm going to add a 2-column row like this, and the element I'm going to put on the left is going to be a video. Okay, now there are a couple of options with videos, and I'll show you that here. So in your video settings, again, you can change the name of it. So I'm going to call this Video Explainer. I can change the padding and everything similar to what you've already seen. And then you can change the video type. So you can embed directly a YouTube, a Vimeo, Wistia, a custom embed code, or HTML5, right? So I'm going to use YouTube for the purpose of this demonstration, which means I just need to grab a YouTube URL. Okay, so I've got my URL of my YouTube video. I'm just going to paste it in here, and you can automatically see that here it is previewed right here. So there are a few different things you can do with formatting that video. I'm going to show you that through here. Controls you can leave on or off. That's just going to affect how the video displays. I'm going to turn these off. And width simply changes how much within this video element the video actually takes up, right? So for example, if I put this to half width, it shows half the space there. So this is useful if you are, for example, putting it like it's in a single column row, so it's quite big. You might want to just tone it down a bit and make it a bit smaller. In this case, I've already put it on half the page, so I'm going to leave it as full width. Now, I'm also going to show you I can do a similar thing as with images. I can put a border on it. I could put a full border, and I could make the border color orange, for example, just like that. And the border width we could make a bit more pronounced, just like that. But see how there's a gap between the border and the video? That's because I've still got my padding. So if I go back to general and we drop our padding to 0, now the video sits flush with the border. Okay. Is that the most aesthetically pleasing border? Probably not, but it's showing you how it works, right? And so in the advanced, I can also now go to add in the general, we can also add shadows. So you can add like a drop shadow now if I do a 40%, and you can see it's very subtly now, it has a shadow effect. Just creates a little bit of an effect like the video is lifted off the page a bit, okay? So that's our video. I am going to tone down that border. Okay, just to 2 pixels like that. That looks a lot nicer. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is add in our bullet points on the right-hand side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a few elements here on this one. I'm going to add a subheadline, and I'm going to add a bullet list. Okay, and we'll have a look at some of the features here. So first of all, I'll type in what my subheadline is. And this one I'd like to be justified on the left. So I'm going to go back to my general settings for this. And on text align, just use left. Here's what you get when you register your interest today. Okay, now I also want this to be a little bit larger with the video, so I can drag that over just like this. Okay, and then I'm going to put in my features just here. Okay, so there we go. And now I'm going to add in a button, which is going to be the actual call to action on this page. So I go to elements and I add a button just here. Now, if I click this button, we can change the settings of the button. So again, we're going to go into the general settings here first, and you can see I can actually change various sizes as they'll look on mobile or desktop. And right down the bottom here, I can actually change what the button says. So I'm just going to write here, claim free ticket, and you can add subtext. So you can see as I put the text in here, it appears as like a subheadline within the button itself. Right, and then we can set our actions, and we want this one to be the default, which is to open the pop-up. Other options you can have when using the page builder is to send someone to a URL. That may be somewhere else within your funnel or somewhere else on your website. Hide elements means that you can actually set it to hide other elements. That's covered in another video. Scroll to element, again covered in another video, basically means that it can scroll the page down or up to another point. Go to next step goes to the next funnel page in your funnel builder. So whatever the next sequential step is, that's where it goes to. And then you have options for one-click upsell and downsell product. Again, that's covered in the products videos. Click to call is you can make it dial a phone number, again covered in other videos. So we're going to leave it in open the pop-up for this one here. And we're going to add an advanced effect to this. So we go into advanced here and we can actually say we want this button to be, well, I'll show you a few of these here in this page builder one. So you can change all the text to be lowercase, uppercase, or capitalized, which just makes the first, you can see that changed to first letter capital on any lower cases. Button effects, you have a few things here. When you actually select an effect, you will get a preview of it. So for example, if I chose rocking, you'll immediately see that button start to rock. I can have bounce, and you can have a play with what all these things do. You'll notice the last two are hover effects. So it means when I hover the mouse over it, it'll have the effect. Just remember, on a mobile, that won't do anything because there is no mouse on a mobile phone. I'm going to use the glow option for this, and you can see it's got this subtle glow on it. There we go. Right, and button shadow, same as what we saw with the video. You can add different types of shadows on there. I'm going to add a small shadow to the button. Right, then you have vertical space is basically when you change it, it's changing the space of the text relevant to the button. Right, so you can see if I do this like this, it extends the margin on the button. Okay, so we're going to leave this like that. Visibility, same as we discussed before, and you can add borders to your buttons as well if you want. All right, so there we go. Now, this spacing is not fantastic, and you've seen me how I've just changed spacing between elements. The other thing you can do is change spacing in things like a bullet list. So I can go into my general settings of the bullet list, And I can change this to somewhere in my letter spacing. I'll find line spacing here. Right, in the advanced settings is the line height. And I can change this, and you'll see it changes the spacing of the bullet list. So I'm going to change this to this. Okay, and there we go. So that's looking a lot better now. So I'm also going to push this button down just a little bit by changing the padding, or the margin, sorry. Just like that, and we'll add in our advanced, we'll put in more vertical space here. All right, so there we go. So there's our page just here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in just a couple of conditions down the bottom. So I'm going to do this via another section. I'll add in a section for width. Again, for this section, I'll go into my general and I'm going to change the background color to this dark overlay so it's consistent with the rest of the page. I will add a single column row, and within that row, I'm going to add a paragraph. Okay, so that's my smaller text. I'm going to grab the text that I want to put in here. Okay, so we have our Facebook disclaimer, our product disclaimer, and our terms and privacy policy. Now, in terms of the terms and privacy policy options, you can create links on text, and I'll show you how to do that now. First, I'm going to add some space between these. So I double click this terms option here, and you see that I come up with this link button just here, these two links. So I can hit that, and I simply type in my URL. So you could put in here terms. The other thing you could do is directly go to your terms page, copy the URL, and paste it in here. So I'm going to link that up. There we go. I'm going to do the same with my privacy policy. Okay, you'll notice that the text has changed to blue. And again, you can change those settings. You can either highlight the text itself and change the color within this item here. So here we go, link text color. I can change it just here, right? And that will change them to orange. Or you can change it at the the page wide settings within your typography, where you set the color of your links just here. So there's your two options on changing the links. All right. So now we have the basic page set up. I'm going to save this again. And let's preview our page to see how it looks. Okay, so there you go. So there's the page laid out. You can see this is actually today's date as I'm filming this. It's auto-filled that date up here. There's our video there. And if I hit this button, it'll open the pop-up, which obviously reminds me we haven't set the pop-up details. So let's go back into our editor now and have a look at our page. So this button here is set to operate the pop-up, and there is a separate video on pop-up, so I'm just very quickly going to go through and just set one up here, and I'm going to add a row to the pop-up. It's going to be one column. I'm going to add a headline. Now notice this is white, so I'm going to manually change the text here to black. To who and where do we send your free ticket? And I'm going to add a form, and what you can add in here is a default form from your account. So you simply hit add form. The drop down, I'm going to use this Plateau Facebook ad in this case, and it just drops my form right in here. I'm going to save this. Now if we preview our page again, oh, there you go. So we've previewed here and we've discovered an error. We actually changed our text color across the whole site. So let's go back. When we changed this, we were actually in the typography settings. So that's a very easy fix. We're going to change the typography settings back to white. Okay, and then we're going to select the settings, click the settings cog here of this one. I'm going to close the typography, and now we're in our headline settings. And now we can change the color of the text here to black. Highlight the text. There we go. Yep, and now we're all good. So there we go, we're all set there. Let's save this and have another look at it. Now when I hit my button, it actually brings up my pop-up. So that completes the overview of this more advanced look at actually how to use the various elements of your page builder. I do recommend looking at the video on mobilization of your page. In other words, making small adjustments or sometimes significant adjustments to change your page so that it looks fantastic on a mobile as well as a desktop. Okay, so that's going to be covered in a separate video, but we will use this page from here to go through how to make your page look amazing on a mobile device as well.